Hello and welcome back to our farmhouse here on our little country farm. Today I am inviting y'all in to come along as I'm learning new skills for our farm, relying on those old faithful recipes that just keep supper on the table and adding beauty to this simple life along the way. Come on in, y'all. I just want to warn you that these recipes that I'm showing today are nothing new, and y'all are going to very quickly get tired of these, but these are staples in my kitchen that help me keep food on the table even when I don't want to, which is very often. I do love to cook, but there are a lot of days that are just very busy with the kids, with the farm, with the normal happenings, and so this is what I rely on. These are the things that I fall back on. Now, I've shown these here before. These are the croissants, and this was actually not one of those simple recipes, but it is one I've shared here before, and it is an Old Faithful recipe. I was making up a batch of croissants, chocolate croissants, for a gift for some friends. We had some friends who came and helped us with the farm when we went on a trip. I shared that trip a little while back. We went to Missouri and we had some friends come and help us with the farm and all of the animals. And so I wanted to make them up little goodie boxes. And so that's what I did. I did some chocolate croissants, and then I used the same dough, made some extra croissants for us for dinner. So I was getting that dough started and getting the butter rolled out. Now, this is soap that I'm making here, goat's milk soap. I have made soap many a times, but this is the first time I am ever making goat milk soap, and so this is the only time I've made it. I haven't made any more since this, but this was two different types of soap. I did a lemon, and I did a spring floral scent. I had people asking about it, especially now that people know that we are milking our goats. I've had tons of requests for goat milk soap, so here I am making a couple of batches up. Soap is still a bit intimidating to me. Not entirely, it's just the lie, and once I get past that, I'm good. But it's very intimidating with children around, and so I don't have a lot of time when I don't have children running around at my feet, and so I have to be very on top of it when I am making soap because it can be very dangerous. For those who maybe are totally new to soap, essentially all you do is you add your lye to your liquid base. If that is some form of milk, that needs to be frozen, otherwise water is just fine. And then it will heat up very quickly. You heat up your oils and get them to the same temperature. And then once they are about at the same temperature, which is around 90 to 100 degrees, you will blend them all together and it will thicken. And then you can add in any oils or like essential oils or scents or any add-ins, like I'm doing lemon zest here, that you want. Pour it into a mold, and then you let it harden and cure for several weeks. And that is basically a very simple version of how you make soap. Now let's get back to these croissants. I had my butter ready to go. I put that in the dough into the fridge. I actually didn't show making this dough, but I have shared it on here before, and I will have a blog post linked below. I put them both, the dough and the butter, into the fridge to get to about the same temperature, and then I am pulling them both out. I roll out my dough just big enough to envelope the butter slab, put the butter slab into the dough, and then I'm going to fold it all together and roll it out. It is a very simple process. I do this several times. You put it in the fridge in between to keep it nice and cold, and that is what's going to create the layers. Now I will say I kind of messed this up a little bit, not thinking. I was just trying to zip through it, and I did not use enough butter because I doubled my recipe here for the dough and did not double the recipe for the butter slab, and so these could have used far more butter to get the layers. They were a bit breadier than I would have preferred, but that was okay. They were still delicious nonetheless. But little tip, make sure you use enough butter into the dough for laminating. Otherwise, it will come out more like a crescent roll on the inside than a croissant. I was switching back and forth this day, and that is one of the things you probably shouldn't do, is switch back and forth between soap making and food. But I did. They were in separate little spots in the kitchen, and I wiped everything down constantly. I had gloves on, so it was totally fine. But here I am just adding in my lye. I blended it a bit, and then I'm adding in my lemon zest and my scent, which was a lemon essential oil. This soap did not get quite enough essential oil. The scent is very, 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 very mild in this bar, but that's okay. And then you just dump it in your molds. It really is a very straightforward process once you get past the kind of chemical side of the process. It is not difficult. You just have to be ready to move, and you have to time it right. And so this actually spans a couple of hours. Here is the floral soap. I also used, and I forgot to say this earlier, but I did use a rose infused olive oil. I infused it myself several weeks ago, and that is what is in this one, so you get the benefits of the rose. And I'm adding a rose mica powder to make for a nice pink soap. The scent of this one is a mix of geranium, rose, and ylang ylang, which I'm sure I'm totally butchering how you say that. I added spring dried florals from our farm on the top. I love to add that little element of our farm to the top as well. And it just made for a very beautiful soap that is curing right now on my mantle by our wood stove. Here is the folding. So you fold it over into thirds, roll it out, and then you fold it into thirds, put it back in the fridge. You'll pull it out a couple of times, roll it back out. I do that 2 or 3 times, and then I roll it out really, really thin. This mat, I believe, is like a 14 by 25 inch mat or something like that. So you can see I have rolled this dough out about the size of this mat, and this made these triangles here made very big croissants, sandwich size croissants. So if you wanted something, you know, half the size, that would be perfect for like a side for dinner instead of, say, like a yeast roll like I shared last week, or a biscuit. Half that size would be better. That is more of a sandwich croissant. These are the chocolate croissants. They are probably 2 by 4, maybe 2 by 6 inches. And I add 2 chocolate sticks. You can also use chocolate chips, which I've also done in the past. I do think these chocolate wafer sticks are better. Now let me share something with y'all that I've been doing. This is not a recipe. This is something great that came from a flop. Last year, our garden just produced so many cucumbers, and there's not a lot you can do with cucumbers except eat them fresh or make pickles, and so we made a ton of pickles. I didn't do anything fancy, and so they are a little bit mushy, more than I would like, and I'm the only one who eats pickles in my household. My parents also eat pickles, but not in the amount that we made. I also was very, very pregnant last summer when I canned up all these pickles, and that was a craving of mine. I wanted anything sour. And so now we have all of these pickles left, and I'm not a big pickle eater right now. on occasion, but I love relish for anything. We make a ton of potato salad, egg salad, chicken salad, you name it. Deviled eggs, and I love relish in them. And so I have been taking the jars of pickles and blending it, just pulsing it real quickly to make my own pickle relish, and it has been a game changer. So from now on, I will be making my own relish, or maybe canning up a bunch of pickles again for relish, because it has been so great to have that on hand that I can whip up really fast. Now here I'm using leftover ham from Easter to make these sandwiches. This was a use up things we had kind of meal, and it was so good. A little bit of mayonnaise, a little bit of mustard, relish, salt and pepper, in with some leftover ham that I chopped up in the blender. Made for a really good ham salad sandwich on a croissant roll. And then I followed it up with a chocolate croissant. This is the next day. I am going to slice my soap. Can y'all see how pretty that soap turned out? I love anything with flour, dried flowers, or dried whatever the scent is on the top. And the lemon has a little bit of lemon zest on the inside, not a lot, but a little bit, and it actually adds a little bit of an exfoliant, which is nice. You can see as I'm throwing this tablecloth over this table how worn the tabletop is on this. This is just an old table that we picked up secondhand forever ago, and I decided to move it into our kitchen a while back as an island because this kitchen is very small. It doesn't accommodate an island very well, but this just barely fits. But the finish on it is kind of lacking. So I am now keeping a tablecloth on it most of the time and a silicone mat to work on, and I actually really love it. I love the beauty that the embroidered tablecloth brings, perfect for spring. Now here's a tip. When you make soap, it is not safe to touch it. It will still burn your skin, can burn your skin. Even after you have mixed the oils in, it has to have time to saponify. And so that means turn to actual soap versus lie in oils. And so I always stack up my soap dishes, the pots, the spoons, whatever I use, and set them to the side until the next day. Then you can just scrub it down because it is soap. I will kind of scrape out any large chunks because I can use those to wash my hands real quick or whatever. But you can just scrub it out because at that point it is then soap, and it is much easier to clean the next day. Now here is one of my Old Faithful recipes that I have shared multiple times on here. You can also see that a toddler got a hold of my sleeve there with all those stickers. But y'all are probably tired of seeing this recipe. This is the same recipe as my yeast rolls that I shared last week. This is my go-to bread recipe, sandwich bread recipe. This has a little bit less sugar in it than the rolls do, but nonetheless, it is a similar recipe. It is just half the sugar that I put in the rolls. I will link the recipe below, but I try to keep this on hand, and when I do, My little girl will not stay out of it. It is my husband's favorite bread, and we just fly through it. So this is a weekly occurrence in our little country kitchen. I didn't know exactly what we were going to be having for lunch or supper on this day, and so I just decided to make up a batch of bread to make sure we had something. I ended up using this for a little snack plate. We do this fairly often. This is one of my husband's favorite things. And so I'll do some form of bread or cracker or something and pair it with some deli meats, some cheese, some little snack foods like deviled eggs, fruit, whatever I can come up with, and put that all out on a beautiful dish, and it makes for a wonderful, quick, easy meal. Easy cleanup, easy to do. I just throw it all on the tray. So it worked out perfectly that I made a couple loaves of bread because we had it for that. This is just flour, buttermilk, sugar, salt, yeast, a couple of eggs, half a stick of butter, and you mix it all up. You can refrigerate it overnight to rise until it's doubled, or you can leave it out at room temperature for a couple hours and it will double. Shape it into your sandwich loaf pans and then let it double, let it rise again until it's the shape you want. Put it in, my favorite way to bake it is put it in a cold oven and let it preheat with the oven and cook at 350 until it is golden brown on top. Pull it out, rub some butter along the top to keep it soft, and it is the most delicious loaf of sandwich bread. I promise. It'll get eaten up quick. Now here's our deviled eggs. I am not a fancy deviled egg person, and I talked about the relish earlier. I put relish in some of this, but not in all of it, because my husband actually doesn't like anything pickles. I can get away with fresh dill and occasionally pickle juice in our deviled eggs, but this is not something that I ask him to sacrifice on. He eats stuff sometimes that has things he doesn't like in them for the sake of everyone else, but this is not one because deviled eggs are his favorite thing ever. I can't think of another food that he likes more than deviled eggs, and so I would never dare add pickles to the deviled eggs for him because it would ruin his entire day. But for me, I like a little bit of pickle relish, and so I added that into some of these for us. Mayonnaise, mustard, a little bit of relish or your pickle juice or fresh dill if you have someone in your life who doesn't love pickles, and combine that with some salt and some pepper, add a little bit of paprika on top, and you have a very simple country deviled egg. We are in a very big season here on the farm. We just had all of our dairy girls had all of their babies, so we had our kidding season, and then now we are milking. I'm not milking all of them because we still have a few babies waiting to go to their new farms, but I have started milking. It is also chick season, spring. We normally get chicks in the spring and in the fall, and we actually didn't order any this year or haven't picked any up because I am trying my hand at incubating. We have a friend who has loaned us an incubator, and we're going to try to hatch our own from our beautiful eggs here on our farm. It will just be a barnyard mix. Haven't done anything specific to separate hens and roosters, but these will just allow us to keep having in the fresh eggs all the time, which is what we love. We are sharing some of our milk here. I went and picked up a few plants from a relative and a friend for the garden, and I took her some fresh goat's milk. And so it was kind of a trade, a little bit of a trade there with fresh goat's milk and garden plants for the spring and summer garden here on our farm. So that was very fun. I love to share our stuff when we can, but this goat's milk I'm hoarding a little bit because I am wanting to slowly switch to every dairy product in our house being from the farm and homemade. And so I've made cheese, I've made sour cream, we've made cream cheese, and we have the fresh milk that we've turned into chocolate milk. All of the things, and I have a lot more that I am wanting to learn to do. But I had a big stash this day, not a lot of time to deal with it, and it made for the perfect trade for some veggie plants. Along with getting the garden started and learning to milk our goats and trying to hatch our own eggs, we also have gotten bees. I shared that a while back, and it is an entirely new process. I am not in charge of this bee operation. We have a friend who has them on our farm, and she comes and we are figuring this out together. She knows a lot more than I do, but it is still her first hive of bees, and so here we were trying to figure out if we needed to split, if they're going to try and swarm, and we were checking on our honey in the hive. This is a very scary thing for me too, bees are, but soap and bees apparently are the two most intimidating things to me on the farm. I will do any of the other things. The animals don't freak me out, but the bees and the soap kind of, I'm getting there. I do it, I suck it up, but they are definitely the more intimidating things that I have going on. I'm so glad that you joined me today, and I cannot wait to see you until next week. Thanks for stopping by.